In the news today, Cinered donates paint to revamp school hostel blocks. People's Agenda president calls on leaders to promote manufacturing and goods production. Namibian Blood Transfusion Service in the process of reviving their school donation drives. We're also going to take a look at the news headlining today's daily newspapers, bring you sports news and international headlines, as well as more in today's broadcast. We're glad to take you through the lunch hour on this lovely Thursday, keeping you company and up to speed with the latest happenings across Namibia and beyond. My name is Diana Master, and this is NMH at 1. Let's have a look at the latest news. The Namibia Airports Company has announced the Eurowings Discover and Ethiopian Airlines will be expanding their operations as from Sunday at Hosea Kutako International Airport. Developments which are supported by the bilateral air service agreement between Namibia and the states of Germany, South Africa, Angola and Ethiopia. The Lufthansa Group increases the Eurowings Discover service to 7 weekly flights between Frankfurt and Windhoek starting this Sunday as a year-round service. Ethiopian Airlines are also set to resume their Sunday flights between Addis Ababa and Windhoek from Hosea Kutako this week, increasing their frequencies from 4 to 5 per week, while Flying Namibia has increased their Windhoek to Cape Town flights from 3 to 6 weekly, and TAG Angola have added Saturday to their Monday and Thursday schedule. We're now going to take a quick ad break.
This is why we live.
Welcome back. Getting into today's video news, we start off central north of Namibia. The Central North Electrical Distributor Cinered donated paint worth 31,000 Namibian dollars to revamp the Okamatapati Combined Schools 4 hostel blocks, which are home to 508 boarders, mainly from the Ochadanjupa region. Enzo Amwele reports. Let's have a look.
We budget, and these are the questions that we asked ourselves last week when we were busy with the budget. The very first question is, who is fundamental to our existence? And the second question is, how do we show appreciation to those that are fundamental to our existence? And to answer the very first question is, you are the people responsible, you are the fundamental elements to our existence, because without you, then we don't have energy consumers. Now, how do we show appreciation to that effect? We show appreciation to that effect by just making sure that we have a budget that sits on its own, which looks into corporate social investment. Now, when you come to education, this is one area that the institution, most Cinered, is very much keen. We invest so much in education because we believe education should be a key and it should be a priority to every corporate citizen. Even though we have a ministry that is responsible for education in the country, the impact of that education can only be felt if all stakeholders and team players, play an active role in making sure that we create a conducive learning environment for a Namibian child. It is so because a conducive learning environment has a psychological impact during learning. When students are having classes that are not up to standard, are learning in environments that are not up to standard, their cognitive levels become somehow impaired. Because there's quite a lot of obstructions and the environment is not really conducive, the heat, a couple of other things, the dilapidations. So that is why, as a company, We did not hesitate immediately when we received your letter that you needed to make sure that your school has that bright learning, cognitive effects on the learners. It's because we are trying to promote education. Of course, it's a call that we would like to extend to all good corporate citizens that we need to join hands with the ministry responsible for education in making sure that we better the education of a Namibian child. It's not something that GRN alone can do in isolation.
We are proud, we feel honored, we feel blessed. Definitely, we feel happy to have received the donation behind my back here. On a serious note, I would also like to extend my gratitude enough to the Senate group who felt that generosity in them to at least give such a donation to our school. I'm definitely grateful enough. With these few words, I would like to say thank you.
A wonderful initiative indeed. Moving right along, the People's Agenda President Sebastian Chamba has called on leaders to promote manufacturing and production of goods among Namibians instead of remaining consumers of products. The People's Agenda is a lobby group in the Kavango regions that advocates for development, social justice and fairness in communities. The group president spoke to Kenya Kambowe. Have a look.
In Kavango, we have a serious problem of table, chairs, desks in schools. So we have timber. Why can't we use? We have to train. This is not something difficult to be realized. We just need to train few youth, bring them on board, fund them, give them all the resources that they need for them to produce table, desk and stuff. Councillors are supposed to compete on how many tables or chairs are we producing in our local constituencies per year. Because we can't talk about GDP, Namibia is rich GDP and stuff. No, we have to narrow this one down to the local level as to how do we want really to see, how do we want to really to show the indicators to show that we are really moving forward. How many cabbage did we produce per year? The agronomic board is doing so well that once we produce enough, they can close the border, and then we need to buy our own products. That's the direction that we need to go. So I'm expecting that from Mukwe and Ndongalinena, Mashare, and so forth, for the councillors really to come up, even looking at the Kavango West as well, to come up with innovative to produce. We can't be consumers forever. That is wrong, a very wrong approach that we are taking. Because being consumer forever is being slaves to other people forever. We'll be saying, no, our GDP is good, but how many of the products did we produce as the local people? So that is a very serious concern that we really need to look at as we are going from 32 years and beyond. We need now to look at ourselves. What do we have? If we say Namibia is our country, we have our diamond, we have our oil. Who are producing things? Who are not producing things? We can't just be laborers. We can't just be people who are touching things, but then we can't be able to own them. It's wrong as a people. That's how things are going to turn around to be, for us to feel like as if we are left out in every.
The Namibian Blood Transfusion Service is in the process of reviving their school donation drives with roadshows at selected schools. Tiemo Haidula was at one of the events.
In the hope of creating awareness and reducing blood shortages in the country, the Namibian Blood Transfusion Services has revived its awareness campaign at schools using peer promoters to boost blood reserves. This program was established in 2016 and is aimed at secondary schools across the country. Titus Shavute, Supervisor Donor Recruitment and Public Relations of the service, said that the last campaign was held in 2020 at all secondary schools that host blood donation clinics. This program sadly was put on hold due to the coronavirus outbreak. Speaking at an engagement with learners of the Weshipandeka Secondary School, Shavute said that the Peer Promoters program is aimed at increasing the number of learners at participating schools who donate blood regularly. This, he said, is done by providing a few selected learners at each school with the training and the tools required to encourage their peers to donate blood.
Then they'll tell you to come back after 30 days to do a retest because you might be in a window period. So that's just a period in between. Potentially, even if your test comes out negative, potentially the instruments and the different reagents that they are using won't be able to pick up whether or not you are positive. Okay? That's why they tell you to come back after 30 days. Now, there's a reason for this. Okay? I'll give you a quick 2-minute biology lesson. Yeah? It's gonna sound very serious, but it's just a lot of biology words. Okay? Now, there are different tests that are conducted in order to test whether something is positive or not. Okay? In this particular scenario, they use what is known as a virology test. Okay? A virology test is testing for your antibodies against a particular infection. They are testing whether your body is reacting against a particular infection. Okay? Whether it has built up antibodies to fight off a certain virus. Okay? NAT testing, on the other hand, tests for the genetic material of the virus.
When we return, we'll be taking a sneak peek inside Namibia's daily print publications. But first, a quick ad break. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. We now take a look at what the lead stories are in Namibia's daily newspapers, starting off on the Namibian Sun front page. The Namibian Sun leads with the 5 activists of the Affirmative Repositioning Party, now known as the AF5, who are each sentenced to a fine of $300 Namibian or 10 days imprisonment following their arrest 2 years ago for violating COVID-19 regulations on public gatherings. The 5 activists got in trouble after they mobilized community members to help fix a shack for a struggling, apparently mental ill resident of Khoriankab in Katutura. The newspaper also draws comparisons between the strict legal actions taken against these 5 men, while no one was charged when the controversial SWAPO's 60th birthday party was held by President Hage Geingob just 1 week later in 2020. According to Namibian Sun, control measures have been implemented following confirmation of an outbreak of lung sickness in cattle in 2 constituencies of the Kavango region. Farmers in the region notified veterinary officials at the end of February before the investigation found that 16 cattle had died and 20 showed clinical signs of lung sickness. Moving over to the Republican leads with the news of the impact of the outbreak of foot and mouth disease in neighboring South Africa. According to experts, the new outbreak is expected to have only a very limited impact on the red meat industry of Namibia, despite devastating consequences of the disease across the border. Still in the Republican, recently retired 2-time Olympic road cyclist Dan Craven is preparing to launch his next project within the next 2 weeks. Republican reports that Craven has been working on the marketing strategy for the top quality steel-framed bicycles manufactured by 2 farm workers near his hometown of Omaruru, which he intends to take to the international stage. Now in Allgemeine Zeitung, it leads with the perceived threat presented by third parties to the SADC region's intentions of using the cross-border conservation areas as a catalyst for tourism. In November 2021, the Environment and Tourism Ministers of the SADC states advocated the rapid development of what today amounts to 8 such cross-border conservation areas. However, the Canadian exploration company Recon Africa is expanding into the conservancies of the West Kavango region, drilling for gas and oil and conducting widespread seismic surveys. Also, the Mbukushu tribe of the Kavango apparently raises claims to the ancestral lands of the indigenous people or San people and wants to herd their cattle into the Bobwata National Park. Such claims jeopardize the concept of the Kavango Zambezi Conservation Area. Allgemeine Zeitung also makes the announcement that the Institute for Public Policy Research will offer an important workshop at the Heinz Seidel Foundation today as part of its project named Integrity Namibia. Today's program mainly deals with the protection of whistleblowers as supported by law. In doing so, the IPPR actively supports the objectives of the Anti-Corruption Commission, which recently announced that wants to involve the entire population in the fight against corruption. The IPPR recently pointed out that Article 5 of the UN Convention Against Corruption obliges all UN member countries to establish effective, coordinated anti-corruption guidelines. After the break, we will return with the lead story on the front page of the Namibian. Stay tuned. The Namibian reports that railway parastatal Transnamib is staring possible liquidation in the face if it fails to fight off an attempt by the liquidators of defunct Belgian airline Challenge Air SA to claim 161 million Namibian dollars from its coffers. Local lawyer Sisa Namanje, on behalf of the Belgian firm's liquidators, has sued Transnamib as a sister company to the former national airline in order to recoup the 161 million Namibian dollars that Air Namibia failed to pay them before it was liquidated. According to the Namibian sports administrators are looking to the future with renewed optimism after the youthful national team came back with a total of 30 medals from the South African National Championship for the physically disabled. The 13-year-old Liza Meyer announced herself with 4 gold medals, winning the 100 and 200-meter sprints, as well as the shot put and discus throw. Lahia Ipinge was another star performer with 3 gold medals in the under-17 sprint items. Now over to the New Era. New Era reports on the traditional Olufuko Cultural Festival once again getting resistance from various quarters, even though the annual event will only resume next year due to COVID restrictions on large gatherings. Church leaders from the Evangelical Lutheran Church have told the organizers they should either change the name to the Otapi Trade Fair or remove their name from the main entrance because their activities have a negative influence on the trade fair, while also describing the festival as repulsive and divisive. New Era reports from the Windhoek High Court, where Russian national Alexander Krylov and his Namibian co-accused Anna Katrina Engelbrecht stand accused on 42 counts of rape and child trafficking. Krylov, formerly a marine pilot at Namport, was arrested in October 2017, and it is alleged that he committed sexual acts with 5 underage girls between 15 and 16 years at the time, who were reportedly recruited by Engelbrecht. Krylov this week testified that he had gotten tired of lending people money without them paying him back, so therefore he had people work for their money and always paid them 100 Namibian dollars. Let's head on over to Market Watch. Market Watch takes a look at the role of the Agricultural Bank of Namibia and the role it has played in the advancement of the country's agricultural sector. In 2017, AgriBank established its Agri Advisory Services division within the Marketing and Customer Strategy Department of the bank. To date, an investment of 12.8 million Namibian dollars was made for the operationalization of the AASD, benefiting 36,013 agri-entrepreneurs, of which 70% are small-scale farmers based in communal and rural areas of the country, while 120 clients of the bank are being mentored. More on this and more stories from the world of economics when we return. Stay tuned.
Have you received a loan from NSFAF? NSFAF loan is the same as any other loan. It must be paid and settled. NSFAF has a set of guidelines on how you can repay your loan and become debt-free. Therefore, it is important that you, a former beneficiary and a responsible Namibian, show your patriotism by helping pay back your loan and thus helping NSFAF become a revolving fund for the benefit of future potential students. By failing to pay back your NSFAF loan, you risk being blacklisted or having a court order against you. So arrange with the fund to pay back your loan today. For more information on how you can repay your loan, visit our website at www.nasfaf.na or visit our Facebook page or Twitter. Do the right thing and hashtag payback the money.
In today's economic news, to date, a 12.8 million Namibian dollar investment was made for the operationalization of the AASD, benefiting 36,013 agri-entrepreneurs, of which 70% are small-scale farmers based in communal and rural areas of the country, while 120 clients of the bank are being mentored. As a result of this intervention, coupled with stakeholder engagements, especially for the past 2 financial years, poultry loans increased by 188% to 1.99 million Namibian dollars ending February 2022 from 694,551 Namibian dollars in the financial year 2020 to 2021. Furthermore, loans advanced to clients below the age of 35 increased by 75% to 19 million Namibian dollars year to date, with 44 beneficiaries from 10.9 million Namibian dollars, with 27 beneficiaries in the FY 2020-2021, mostly for livestock production. Inflation hits new 30-year high in February, according to official figures. Prices rose by 6.2% in the 12 months to February, the fastest for 30 years as fuel, energy and food costs surged. Prices are rising faster than wages, and the Bank of England thinks it could hit double digits this year. Since December last year, prices have been rising at their fastest rate since the 1990s. Inflation is expected to speed up in April when the energy price cap is increased. This will push up the average household fuel bill by up to 693 British pounds a year in England, Scotland and Wales, while a planned rise in national insurance will also put pressure on household budgets. We'll now take a quick ad break and return with more news. Stay tuned.
Choose your Flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in one bundle. It's new, it's one bill, and you can stay connected in more than one location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. Let's have a look at the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar has gone up against the British pound and the euro while losing value against the Chinese yuan. No new changes for these companies whose stock prices remain the same on the Namibia Stock Exchange. Trustco Group Holdings stock prices dropped by 1.60%, while overall index has also gone down by 0.79%. These commodities increase in price. Brent crude oil now trades at $121.55. Now moving over to South Africa, where attacks spearheaded by Operation Dudula targeting foreign business people in South Africa are expected to have been orchestrated by political figures. Now, let's move on over to this story. In South Africa, following the xenophobic attacks in Alexandra, refugees and asylum seekers in Cape Town are on edge as they fear that the Operation Dudula attacks that are targeting foreigners who came to seek employment in South Africa could spark a resurgence of the 2008 to 2009 xenophobic attacks which claimed the lives of many refugees and asylum seekers in Cape Town. The Socioeconomic Rights Institute of South Africa says Operation Dudula was orchestrated by some political parties under the misguided pretext of protecting employment for vulnerable South Africans. Congolese Civil Society of South Africa founder Isaiah Mombilo said refugees and asylum seekers in Cape Town are hoping that the attacks can come to an end, and given that the entire continent is under the same crisis, Mombilo believes that unity is needed instead of Afrophobia. Sharon Ekambaram from the Refugee and Migrant Rights Program said campaigns like Operation Dudula and the hashtag Put South Africans First reflect a discriminatory attitude towards migrants that marginalizes people based on their nationality. The battle for control over Matemo Island off the coast of the northern Mozambican province of Cabo Delgado took 3 days, in which the Mozambican Defense and Security Forces killed 20 Islamist terrorists. According to the Mozambican Armed Forces Chief of General Staff, 4 members of the Mozambican forces also died in the clashes. According to Mangras, during the fighting, the Mozambican forces destroyed 6 boats used to carry the terrorists from the mainland. The Mozambican troops were supported by forces of the Southern African Development Community Mission in Mozambique. The terrorists landed on Matemo on 26 March and the FADM reacted by sending air and naval forces to the island. The authorities imposed an exclusion zone around the island. No vessels were allowed to approach while the clashes continued. We now move on over to international news. The World Health Organization has verified at least 64 attacks on hospitals in Ukraine since Russia's invasion. Stick around for the full story and more. Taking a look at international news, the World Health Organization says it has verified some 64 attacks on healthcare facilities in Ukraine since Russia began its invasion a month ago. The WHO confirmed that the attacks took place between February 24 and March 21 at a rate of between 2 and 3 each day, killing at least 15 people, said in a statement. Attacks on healthcare are a violation of international humanitarian law, but a disturbingly common tactic of war. They destroy critical infrastructure, but worse, they destroy hope, said Dr. Jano Habicht, the WHO representative in Ukraine. Ukraine has accused Russia of bombing hospitals and health facilities, including a children's and maternity hospital in the besieged city of Mariupol, in what one city official calls a war crime without justification. Nearly 4 million people have been forced to flee the country, according to the UN, with Ukraine putting up fierce resistance in the face of the Russian advance. New Zealand has announced it will take in 450 asylum seekers and refugees held in Australia or its offshore detention centre. Australia introduced harsh new measures in 2013 to send any asylum seekers who tried to arrive in Australia by boat to so-called offshore processing centres in Papua New Guinea or Nauru. They were told they would never be allowed to settle in Australia even if they were found to need protection under refugee law. Refugee groups say about 1,300 people, including people allowed to live on temporary visas in the community, currently fall under the category. While the camps in PNG and Nauru have closed, about 200 people remain in the Pacific, while others were brought to Australia under a short-lived medical evacuation scheme in 2019 and have been living in facilities such as Melbourne's Park Hotel ever since. New Zealand says it will take 150 refugees a year over the next 3 years and follow the same screening and refugee quota program assessment process used for other refugees coming into the country, the statement said. We now move on over to sports news, starting with cricket, which continues at Wanderers Stadium in Windhoek. Yesterday, the Island Wolves leveled the T20 series with a comfortable 32-run victory against Namibia A, and the last of the 3 T20 matches continue today. More on this when we return. Stick around. Island Wolves leveled the T20 series with a comfortable 32-run victory against Namibia A at the Wanderers Field yesterday. After being sent into bed, Ireland Wolves amassed 173 for 4 wickets off their 20 overs before restricting Namibia A to 141 over 6 to complete a comprehensive victory. The last of the 3 T20 matches continue today ahead of next week's 5-day matches. Tomorrow, the second race on Saturday at 7:30, and the last stage to kick off on Sunday at 8. The Nedbank for Autism series is teeing off this coming Saturday, 26 March at the Oraniemund Golf Club. The series, which is in its 3rd year, was launched in February 2020 with the aim of creating awareness for the Autism Association of Namibia. DZ Golf Coordinator Dan Zwiebel mentioned that the leg of the Nedbank for Autism series will be one to look out for as golfers in the diamond town of Oraniemund are eager to take part in the coveted golf event. We now take a look at the international sports scene, but first a quick ad break. In our first international sports story, Egypt captain Mohamed Salah has vowed to avenge an Africa Cup of Nations final loss last month to Sadio Mane-inspired Senegal when they clash again on Friday in a 2022 World Cup playoff. South Africa reached the semi-finals of the Women's Cricket World Cup on Thursday when rain washed out their crunch match against the West Indies in Wellington. Ashley Barty said that she will remove herself from the WTA rankings after announcing her retirement, opening the door for Poland's Iga Swiatek to become world #1. After the break, we'll be taking a look at your news highlights. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now in case you missed it at the start of the show, here are your news highlights. Following the xenophobic attacks in Alexandra, refugees and asylum seekers in Cape Town are on edge as they fear that the Operation Dudula attacks that are targeting foreigners who came to seek employment in South Africa could spark a resurgence of the 2008 to 2009 xenophobic attacks, which claimed the lives of many refugees and asylum seekers in Cape Town. The World Health Organization says it has verified some 64 attacks on healthcare facilities in the Ukraine since Russia began its invasion a month ago. Ireland Wolves leveled the T20 series. Ireland Wolves amassed 173 for 4 wickets off their 20 overs before restricting Namibia A to 141 over 6 to complete a comprehensive victory. The last of the 3 T20 matches continue today ahead of next week's 5-day matches. Egypt captain Mohamed Salah has vowed to avenge an Africa Cup of Nations final loss last month to Sadio Mane-inspired Senegal when they clash again on Friday in a 2022 World Cup playoff. To date, a $12.8 million Namibian investment was made for the operationalization of the AASD, benefiting 36,013 agri-entrepreneurs. Those have been your highlights. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1 and spending your lunch hour with me, Diana Master. Remember to tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. as we take you through the latest happenings in Namibia and beyond. But until then, here's a compilation of news from across the regions in Namibia.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.
Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome back to another edition of the Regional Review. It is a beautiful Thursday afternoon here in Otjiwarongo, and thank you guys for tuning in. And before we continue with our show today is World Tuberculosis Day. Please do stay tuned.
This is why we live.
Welcome back from our daily ad viewers. First up in our news, Senared electrical supplier in the Central North has donated 31,000 to Okamatapati Combined School in Ozonudupa region. This donation is to revamp the 4 hostel blocks at the school and also to ensure that learners receive education in a conducive environment. Spokesperson Charlie Matengu emphasized that education is the key, and also Senared is very keen on education.
And these are the questions that we asked ourselves last week when we were busy with the budget. The very first question is, who is fundamental to our existence? And the second question is, how do we show appreciation to those that are fundamental to our existence. And to answer the very first question is, you are the people responsible, you are the fundamental elements to our existence, because without you, then we don't have energy consumers. Now, how do we show appreciation to that effect? We show appreciation to that effect by just making sure that we have a budget that sits on its own, which looks into corporate social investment. Now, when you come to education, this is one area that the institution, Senorate, is very much keen. We invest so much in education because we believe education should be a key and it should be a priority to every corporate citizen. Even though we have a ministry that is responsible for education in the country, the impact of that education can only be felt if all stakeholders and team players, play an active role in making sure that we create a conducive learning environment for a Namibian child. It is so because a conducive learning environment has a psychological impact during learning. When students are having classes that are not up to standard, are learning in environments that are not up to standard, their cognitive levels become somehow impaired because there's quite a lot of obstructions and the environment is not really conducive, the heat and a couple of other things, the dilapidations. So that is why, as a company, we did not hesitate immediately when we received your letter that you needed to make sure that your school has that bright learning, cognitive effects on the learners. It's because we are trying to promote education.
It is indeed a privilege to see corporate companies honoring their social responsibility within the society. Next up in our news, a couple in Otjiwarongo is planning on suing the Otjiwarongo State Hospital. It is alleged that Yvonne Polman lost her baby due to nurses' negligence. Her husband, Rodney Polman, who is also an administrative officer at the hospital, says that his wife was admitted on Sunday, the 6th of March 2022, and was only operated on Tuesday after she had complained of abdominal pains. We hope that the Pullman family gets the answers they are asking for. In other news, a family in Ocho is seeking for justice after their relative Victor Gaiseb died in a supposed accident on the 10th of December 2022. The family is alleging that Victor was shot in the head by one of his gang members as he was part of a poaching gang that used to do illegal poaching around Ocho. It is alleged that he was shot in the head at an unspecified location and he was transported 5 kilometers outside of Ocho, and then the gang members faked a car accident. Well, viewers, we have come to the end of our news segment today. Now we head over to our news segment with Commercial Director of Nexus Group, Corey Labushkakni, and as well Rian Smith, who is the manager of Nexus Charcoal.
Thank you very much. My name is Corey Labushkakni. I'm the Commercial Director for Nexus Group, and I'm overseeing the Nexus Charcoal business. And this is Rian.
I'm the manager for Nexus Charcoal. I'm driving the business forward.
Being a construction and a civil company in Namibia for the past 30 years, there are a lot of challenges in terms of the current financial situation of the economy and the government. And we are reliable on a lot of government work. And I think that the whole industry has been hurt not only by COVID but by other reasons as well. That's the reason for us to diversify to charcoal. I think the charcoal, that Ochu is in the center of the charcoal hub, if I can call it like that. We have a lot of encroached bush around us, and that's the reason for doing it in Ochu as well. So I think for us it was a natural thought to diversify into the charcoal industry and see how we can uplift the Ochu community as well by providing work and bringing a new business added to our group of companies to Namibia as well and to Ochu.
Yeah, so once we took that decision to diversify, we started our process of investigating what businesses to diversify in. As Corey was saying, charcoal came up, and we did a thorough investigation into how we're going to set up this plant, because we didn't want to just set it up as the next plant or the already existing plants that's in Namibia. We've got a big construction background. We employ about 700 people in the construction industry, so we know how to work with people and how to operate businesses, especially remotely. And we wanted to take that advantage and that knowledge and start this business. So we started looking at charcoal about 2019. It took us a year to do thorough planning, investigation, designing of the plant, engineering of how we're going to lay out this plant. And finally, in 2021 February, we started with construction. And it took us about 6 months. We exported our first container in July 2021, our first real container to Portugal. Since then, we've just been growing and growing, obviously with the cash flow shortages or for a new business with cash flow and getting people to work and setting up your processes. It's been a slow start for us, but till to date, we're employing about 50 people in the charcoal industry, all local people here from Ochu, people that was jobless, that was standing on the streets or sitting at home, is now working for us. In the meantime, we've also started our harvesting leg, so we're planning on doing a certain portion of the charcoal that we export to harvest it ourselves, and that's also been going well.
Some of the major challenges in the charcoal industry is the social issue on the farms, and we are addressing that. Rian will elaborate on that. In the factory, the dust is a major concern to all factories. With our design, we've incorporated a extraction system, and then with the export, the problem at the moment is the availability of containers. Containers is a shortage at the moment, so there's only one shipping line that's currently providing containers, and all those containers needs to be divided amongst all the producers in the country, and it creates a big problem and a bottleneck at the harbour.
So Nexus Charcoal is not a only and first charcoal business in Namibia. Namibia is renowned for exporting charcoal to the world. So when we decided to enter this market, we didn't go with a onset to reinvent the wheel. I mean, there are lots of charcoal businesses here doing good business already in Namibia. So we had to really think out of the box. How are we going to do this differently, and can we really add value to the industry, already existing industry? So from the onset, we decided to see what's needed in the charcoal industry, and what social or other challenges there are, and trying to address that to see how we can do things differently. We, as I mentioned earlier, we also started our own harvesting leg, where we're going to harvest our own charcoal, bring in our own charcoal, and that's where we really concentrated a lot on how we're going to harvest and what do we want to aim with harvesting of charcoal. The charcoal industry or the charcoal product is just a byproduct from what we're trying to do, and that is trying to debush the farms and restore the savanna grasslands in Namibia. What other people are doing, or other charcoal companies are doing, they have choppers that goes in with hand and axes and chop these charcoal bush or the bushes, and then put it in kilns to make charcoal. And with our knowledge of the industry from construction and civils. We have extensive knowledge in operating machines and how to operate machines, and we thought we can use this knowledge and channel it towards the harvesting side. So we invested heavily in machines and to do this more mechanically and on a faster path. We don't want to sit on a farm for 2-3 years. We want to be on the farm and give the farmer his farm back to debush in 5-6 months and be off the farm. At the same time, we address the social challenge on the farm of having 200-300 people on the farm. We're currently sitting with 14 people on the farm, and we're doing the same production just because we're utilizing the machines differently.
Well, it is a clear indication that indeed businesses should diversify. And next up, we head over to our weather report for the day.
Taking a look at the weather in the central north, Okahanya and Otjiwarongo are partly cloudy and warm, with thunder showers expected on Sunday. Spotty rain is forecast for Tsumeb and Grootfontein from today until Monday, along with mild temperatures. And Okakarara is partly cloudy and warm, with some thunderstorms expected on Sunday, whereafter it will clear.
Well, viewers, we have come to the end of our show here today of the Regional Review. If you guys have anything newsworthy, please do not hesitate to contact me at enzo@myzone.com.na. See you guys again next week, Thursday.